Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Vasiliki Kounadi, and today I'll be presenting our work, which does not show. AI-driven NPCs, enhancing player challenges and skill development in games. This is joint work with my colleagues, Anastasios Theodoropoulos and George Lepouras at the University of Peloponnese. In our research, we explore how AI-powered adaptive NPCs can make role-playing games more engaging, more challenging, and more meaningful for players. Our pilot study and prototype aim to highlight the potential of AI NPCs to not only be used to enhance realism, but to make adaptive conversation part of the gameplay in itself. RPGs have often attracted players with rich worlds, storytelling, and freedom of choice. But even the best RPGs suffer from three main problems: rigid morality systems, repetitive quests, and difficulty levels that either feel too easy or too frustrating. We also know from research that when players make meaningful choices, especially social or moral ones, they feel a stronger sense of immersion, agency, and emotional connection. So we did ask ourselves, what if NPCs weren't static, but could develop players dynamically, not just in what they say, but in how they respond emotionally and strategically? Our research centers around three main research questions. First, how does an AI-driven NPC affect the player's perception of challenge and decision-making? Second, does adaptive conversation can actually increase player engagement and emotional connection? And finally, can these dynamic dialogues actually foster skills like critical thinking and strategic decision-making? Traditionally, NPCs follow fixed dialogue trees and predictable patterns. In contrast, AI NPCs can learn from player in real time, adjust difficulty dynamically, and even respond to emotional cues like tone or sentiment. This creates lifelike, unpredictable interactions, but also raises some design challenges. Too much complexity can overwhelm players, and there are ongoing debates about fairness and ethics in adaptive systems. So, to explore these ideas, we've created a game prototype as proof of concept called Down the Rabbit Hole. It's a first-person narrative RPG set in a darker reimagining of Wonderland. You get to play as a protagonist set on a mission to rescue your younger sister Alice from the clutches of the vicious Queen of Hearts. Alice is also our first AI-driven NPC, a conversational agent implemented into Unreal Engine 5.3 using OpenAI's API. Alice is not just a quest giver. She is the emotional and narrative anchor of the game's intro level. She reacts to your questions, your curiosity, and your freedom of choice. Here's one brief example. What's that big house over there? That's our family's estate. It's grand, but I prefer the peacefulness of the garden. So in just a few turns, Alice conveys a playful sense of personality, emotional feelings, and world lore. The full exchange is in my backup slides if you'd like to see it later as well. Our system works in 4 steps. First, a conversation begins between Alice and the player with a set number of minimum exchanges. During this conversation, Alice provides contextual guidance with emotionally shaded responses. In the background, however, she assesses the player's values based on subtle questions and tone. And finally, there's an affinity scoring mechanism based solely on Alice's personality traits. If the score is high, she will guide you more accurately. If the score is low, she will mislead you. Now, this is actually important to clarify. The affinity scoring mechanism has been tested and works as a system, but it's not yet implemented in the current game build, affecting story outcomes. Right now, Alice's adaptivity is conversational only. We thought it important to first validate the core dialogue model before moving in and layering in any story branching features. To evaluate Alice, we conducted a small-scale exploratory study with 7 undergraduate game design students. Each had a 15 to 20-minute session of free-form conversation with Alice, and afterwards they completed 2 questionnaires: the Godspeed questionnaire for animacy, intelligence, and likability, and the Game Experience questionnaire for immersion, flow, tension, and challenge. We also conducted short interviews and logged their conversations. Our findings were rather encouraging. Players rated Alice high in emotional intelligence. Immersion was also strong, standing at a 4.1 out of 5, but tension was moderate with a 3.5. Players sometimes found the interaction challenging, rating it a 3.9 out of 5. Most importantly, we found a significant correlation between likability and enjoyment. The more likable players found Alice, the more they enjoyed the experience. From interviews, 3 main themes stood out. Emotional presence. Players said Alice felt genuine and in character, while others found the open-ended format of the conversation to be rather challenging. When the time came, they didn't know what to ask. And what surprised us the most, actually, is that many of the players tried to read into Alice's moods or intentions, almost trying to trick her and treating her like a human partner in dialogue. So, okay, what does this all mean? Players responded positively to AI-driven conversation. It boosted both their sense of challenge and emotional connection, but we also saw a trade-off. Story-focused players love the open-ended freedom, but goal-oriented players sometimes needed more structure or prompts. So in the future, balancing structure, guidance, and freedom with together is one of the key design challenges going forward. Sure, our study has some limitations: a small sample size, short sessions, no control group, and some technical limitations like the lack of persistent memory. We are aware of those. But there are also opportunities for the future. Alice could be extended with persistent memory, emotional memory, long-term affinity tracking, and even reactions to players' actions beyond just dialogue, like moral choices or movement patterns. This would also make NPC player relationships more persistent, personal, and dynamic. But to conclude, our pilot study actually indicates that adaptive conversation can be used as part of the gameplay itself, shaping how players make decisions and experience narrative worlds. But AI-driven NPCs show that can deepen immersion, increase challenge, and encourage thoughtful, emotionally engaged play. They do not replace narrative design, they enhance it, opening the door to more dynamic and meaningful player NPC relationships. Now, since I think I have 1.5 minutes, I can give you a small taste of our game prototype. Hello, Yay. This is a teaser trailer of just our first intro level, more like a pilot.
your sister Alice. We're at our estate's gardens near the lake, under the gazebo. It's such a lovely spot, don't you think?
This shows off most of the aspects of the game.
I'm gonna be late.
And thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to take any of your questions.
Hello. Before the question, sorry, please keep the microphone close to your mouth in order to hear you better, because if you like that, you don't hear anything. This is not a sound. This is the microphone. Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions? Yeah, there's one person in the back.
I may have missed how Alice was configured or programmed, or what part of it is ChatGPT and what part of it is your model?
Of course, I did not focus on that during my presentation because we wanted to focus more on the academic parts and our research and how it affected players. But practically, I would like to respond to that, saying that it was hard work. Alice was developed by us in describing the character. Basically, it works with OpenAI's API. We gave the API an initial prompt describing Alice's personality, traits, likes, dislikes, and even the setting we are currently in, like you're in a garden, this there is that, this is that, you're wearing this, so it could, in this era, so it could respond relatively. And then the player asks essentially ChatGPT, it responds back, and it goes back and forth. Then after that is a combination of other AI APIs for text to speech and speech to lip syncing, and that's what makes the model a bit slow to respond because there are many steps. But it thought it would be an overkill just for a pilot study to develop an LLM on our own. I cannot hear you.
If there was some domain knowledge, such as how the garden was laid out, I'm not sure if that was important, but there would be domain knowledge. No way ChatGPT can know how this garden is laid out. So did you have to feed it that?
Yes, I had to feed it that. I said, this is the layout of my level. That house there is that tree is that. There's a lake in the center. I had to feed it, and it surprisingly, it did not break. It followed through to the end. The only cases it sometimes went out of character was just for things like, what are you doing right now, if the player persisted, however. Otherwise, it was rather consistent. I don't have the current conversation right now, but one of the players asked, hey, what are you wearing? And she responded accurately, turquoise dress. And even the player continued and asked, where did you buy it from? And she answered, Mom bought it from me from the seamstress at the village. And then the player continued on and asked, when is our mom's birthday? And the AI responded, it's on 23rd May, a random answer, of course, but it surprised us that it kept up with the storyline. And we did like that adaptivity. I hope I covered you.
Thank you, Vicky, for a very interesting case. I wanted to ask you if the playtesters knew that they are going to meet an NPC empowered by generative AI, or it was kind of disguised. This is my first question. And the second one is, if you think there is kind of a magic effect, and did the playtester commented about kind of a magic effect? Wow, this is amazing. And then, okay, we are passing that. So what is your thought about this, like aftermath?
So to answer your first question, no, the players went in blindfolded. They didn't know they were going to react. They knew we were going to use AI in our NPCs, but did not imagine such layers of freedom. And I think that's what actually made them feel challenged in the long term of the conversation, because at some point they said that I don't know what to ask. I feel too free. It's that awkward conversation phase when you don't know someone and you're both like, yeah, okay, we don't have something to talk about now. So I think in the future we could balance the structure with freedom by maybe giving some prompts, proposed prompts, so players don't feel as pressured to speak. To answer your second question, at first they were sparkles all over their eyes. Yay, this is cool, this is magical, this is great. But afterwards, after they started feeling challenged and maybe awkward, that feeling actually faded. They loved the way the AI was emotionally present and aware, but yes, that feeling did fade. So maybe to keep the interest high, we could propose things like giving quests during these conversations. Maybe this could be used with not main NPCs that would affect the story, but side quests more. So it feels like, okay, here's something to do. Did I cover you, or do you have any follow-ups? Sure.
Congratulations. First of all, I'm just wondering whether this kind of research helps us learn something new, because as you said, it's like interacting with the AI agent, which then can go, is scripted obviously because it's the context of a game. It's interesting, and I just wonder whether some new aspects, like one, does this NPC is interacting with other NPCs, and what kind of interaction do they have? How well can be scripted, and how they help or not develop the game action. Second, spatial cognition. I've seen that Alice was sitting on a bench. It was situated, perhaps scripted, where she is. But NPCs in games very often move around, and they go somewhere else. If you had an NPC of this character, would your agent, your AI, know the new context, could be adapted, and the response will be related to where the NPC is? That's the second question. And the third, which is more fundamental. Now, obviously, and we expected this, and I don't think it's something new, the users like it. The freedom, they engage with all sorts of silly questions or whatever, because they understand that they talk to an agent that can respond and can go beyond a script, the canned script we used to have in the old days. Okay, so this is the innovation. But don't you feel that you as a game designer lose control of the story development and the game? And can you predict exactly the behavior your NPCs are going to have in the future?
Yes. I will tie your first question with the third, if you don't mind. I think the first question is probably what's the novelty here? And then afterwards, the third question is how do you feel as a game designer of unpredictable outcomes with the AI? So actually, I think the novelty here is that, okay, we have scripted NPCs following fixed dialogue trees. We've also seen during the past few years that there have become more dynamic NPCs. I will bring up an example, some mods in Skyrim. I think they use that a lot lately, but even those are dynamic each and every time. They don't have persistent memory over interactions, and sometimes that breaks the story. It creates incoherences. Here, I think Alice is a blend of both structure and freedom. And that makes it, I think that makes it unique, because you have scripted outcomes. You can control it. You can control what happens in the conversation. But if you have created your AI very, very carefully, she won't break character. Afterwards, the outcomes that can be produced are currently, at least, are just binary results. So I can control what will happen in the story if it's just a binary tree. About your second question, which I think was about special recognition. Yes, spatial recognition. Yes, right now Alice is rooted on the bench and she knows the map of the current level, so she can describe it to the player. And even if she was rooted at a different place, yes, again, she could describe it. But you are absolutely correct. If she moved around and the player asked her, hey, where are you right now? Yes, she wouldn't be able to respond on the current way the game is built. We hope that if we do scale it later, we could create our own LLM and then perhaps have her have spatial recognition for her own rectangle. I think that would also be suitable for the players. For example, if we could track the player's movement, okay, he's an explorer, he's going all around. I think he's that type of player. Or I think he's lost, maybe go help him. I think that's a very good way we can move into the future. Thank you for your question, allowing us this thought. I hope I did cover you, though. If it's something else. Oh, yes, you also asked me about that. To be honest, we have not tested that yet. I suppose it's like two AIs talking together currently. I frankly don't know how this would work out, but I am very enthusiastic to discover in future plays of the game. Our system is modular, so it could be extended to include two AI NPCs in the same time, but it would just use immense computing power. That's the only drawback.
Okay, so congratulations. Congratulations for your work. Actually, my questions were much related to the questions that Professor Avouris asked. So my question was also about the coupling between the results of the LLM and the other behavioral aspects of the NPC. I mean, whether, for example, the reply could trigger a new action or make a new decision, or maybe trigger some behavioral animation like smiling or showing some, I don't know, anger and so on. So I was wondering, as a designer also, how easy it is to integrate a Gen AI system to the overall NPC architecture, so that there is spatial awareness and action and so on.
We have actually, thank you for your question. We have actually tried multiple outcomes, but they were not to such a professional level yet in order to showcase. But of course, I can give you a brief explanation. We used lightweight tags again, this was just tested, not implemented because it wasn't polished yet. We used lightweight tags in order to predict those responses. For example, if the response sounded angry, which, okay, I know this is very broad, but using keywords and tone, we used a separate AI conversation to predict that, okay, this sounds angry. This, I will label it angry. And if that label is true, then the anim graph, the animation, can show a different face. But again, it's not very polished, and using a third party for the AI features does delay the process a lot, going back and forth, and always needs internet connection. So again, we hope that in the future can create our own LLM in order to deal with such problems and go faster.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.